Big second day. Between Aron Martens and Skeet Reese, it's hard to say who's got more knowledge about this place. They both know it cover to cover.
Exactly, and Aron Martens, really what he would do is he'd kind of, I know this is going to sound nuts, but when the tide was not right, where these guys could see in the water, we had very, very chilly nights, they'd almost just buy time for the first 3 or 4 hours of their fishing day until they locked in a big one. Aron Martens spent an hour and a half on this bass right here.
Yeah, inside the mouth. You see it? Woohoo! Oh, that's a Delta bass. Look how pretty. Look how thick. Delta. They're a different breed. That's a big one. Gosh, barely in the lip. Woo! You get that in the full screen?
Barely.
Gorgeous.
Aron Martens just scary good on the Delta from there.
It's an hour and a half.
Exactly right. These guys are losing really about 3 to 3.5 hours a day, and Aron Martens going to set up right where he left off on day number 2, and he definitely stops on the right area. He's already locked in on a big one.
So I'm very fortunate to find this one. It's about I mean, it looks like it's 4+. It could be a 5. It's kind of deep still. Not very, not very aggressive yet, but I've just been working it for about, I don't know, close to 10 minutes, so it looks like it might bite. I just can't see it. All I can see is it's a little bigger than that. That's bigger than 4. That's a good way to start your day.
Get loud for Aron Martens. 16 pounds and 9 ounces. Amart takes the lead with 80 pounds, 7 ounces.
Okay, pointer. I need a pointer. All right, power finesse is, I get my rods here. Okay, pointer. I need a pointer for what? I'm gonna point at myself. It's a way of catching fish quicker than you would in a traditional manner. Say flipping or casting a jig or pitching like something we always have done. I do that too, but I consider there's different ways of power finessing. There's like shallow water power finessing, there's deep water power finessing, there's everything in between. And when I say shallow, if you guys remember the Arkansas River, I almost won that one if the lock wouldn't have opened at the last minute. But it was down to the wire. And I was power finesse. I call it, at times I had to slow down, but I was really kind of fishing where traditionally you'd pitch a jig or flip something up. I was catching them in like 8 inches of water. Some of the fish I catch doing that actually leave a swirl. And I actually a lot of times put the bait up on the bank and then kind of pull it off and swim the drop shot out. And I'm talking about a drop shot, and sometimes I use a shake head, same way. But it's just a more effective way of putting fish in the boat, a quicker way. When I'm power finesse fishing, I'm using a spinning rod probably half the time, and I'm using believe it or not, I'm using straight fluoro a lot of times when I do that. And that comes down to the accuracy with the spinning rod. When you got braid on there, it casts like thread. You have very little control over it. A lot of times I am fishing shallow water with it, whatever it is, a bank to 2 or 3 feet of water a lot of times. And maybe down to about 8 or 10, I like fluorocarbon, straight fluoro from the, no leaders. It gives me a little more control. I don't have the knot to deal with when it comes off the spool. It's just the same every time. So you can get really accurate. You can actually start to hit cups like you would a bait caster after a while, if you've done it for a while. And it's just more accurate that way. Plus, the line kind of is more controllable. You get 10-pound braid on there, and you are pitching and flipping. A lot of times you're on docks and cypress trees or bushes. You want a stump or something. You're also running into you can get tangled up much easier with braid, especially the light braid. Fluorocarbon's more forgiving, so you end up hitting the object or getting up on the bank. And you can do it if you're fishing heavy cover. I mean, there's nothing wrong with going. I do go straight braid. Speed. So what I'm doing, like that Arkansas River I talked about a minute ago, I was using a 32nd ounce weight with 8-pound, and I was really only fishing 0 to 3 feet, and most of the time my bites came within a foot or two of the bank. They were real shallow. The bank was kind of shallow, but the fish were. I kind of, after a few bites, kind of figured out I was passing some fish, but the fish that I could catch quicker are the ones that were right up on the bank. And basically, I was just kind of fishing kind of fast, making a lot of casts and fishing parallel. I was kind of swimming a robo worm off the bank. I had a 4-inch fat worm, and that's something else we can talk about. But the fat worm is something I throw more in warmer water. And I'll tell you this right now. And the colder water, like right this time of year, I throw a skinny worm. I throw robos, but there's other worms like that. There's like, say, for instance, if you throw a lot of zoom, there's swamp crawlers and stuff, and they have a knockoff of the robo too. But I throw a skinny and a fat, and that's pretty much all I drop shot. I got a new wacky red worm coming out, but the skinnier worm tends to move easier, more, I guess you can say, a snake-like fluid action. So you barely put any movement in it, and the worm folds up and moves around a lot. And that seems to get colder water bass better. And then as you get into warmer water, like I'm saying about the Arkansas, is really hot. It's more of a rigid action, stiff. So when you move the worm, the kind of whole worm moves in one instead of slithering around. And as it gets warmer, I go to that fatter worm. But I'll use that for instance. Chicago, I almost won the Classic doing it. And that was kind of speed finesse fishing. I actually fished behind a bunch of guys, including Rick Klon and I think Gary and Timmy Horton was in there. And they're all cranking. They're all doing traditional fishing. And this is when the drop shot was new. It's when Mark Davis won. And I'd been drop shotting probably over 10, 15, 12 years at that point. And so I kind of caught on pretty quick to it, the way the water looked and the way the bank sloped and the amount of cranking pressure and pressure that the place was receiving.